Uh, no, I don't want to. No, fuck
There
off.
we go. We're live. Good evening. I'm Jason Hawk, regretfully bringing you a very sad special episode tonight. I'm joined by the brain trust here of Richard Smith
Hi there.
and Rick Tetrault.
Good evening, folks.
How are you doing tonight, gentlemen?
I'm good tonight, thank you.
I'll
Yeah,
admit,
the circumstances are not the best, but not too bad.
I had a different Atomic Trivia War 9000 episode to put out this evening. Then Lisa rushed into the bedroom last night and told me that she'd just seen some really bad news flash up on the television that Robin Williams had died. So I spent all of the past day brooding, and I was really actually quite surprised to have such a very dark cloud hanging over my head all day at work. I was kind of taken off guard about how I was responding to that news because, I mean, I'd never met the man. The most that I could say is that I'd watched a bunch of his movies, but there I was feeling crushed like an uncle or a grandparent had died, and I don't really know why. So I thought maybe we should sit down and talk about what's going on here, why people have been reacting. From where I'm sitting, this has been the biggest single celebrity death since back in 2009 when Michael Jackson died. I'm just wondering, has it been the same over there in England?
Yeah, I think it has. It's just been a complete shock. And I think, collect myself. I think you can quite rightly compare this to the Michael Jackson event because this is another person who is absolutely one of a kind. There's no more people like Robin Williams. There's no more people who could do what he could do, or even a close approximation of it. And I think we all just feel that society has lost something significant.
What about down in Florida, Rick? Has the response down there been pretty much what I'm seeing up here in Ohio?
Uh, I know that. Well, I haven't really interacted with too many people because we're still on our summer break right now. Work hasn't really kicked in, so I've really only been interacting with with my family in person over the last 24 hours. But I know that Facebook exploded. I heard last week or maybe a week and a half ago there was just a little blurb that Robin Williams was back in rehab, and I thought, well, that's a shame. I know I've been kind of following his in and out of drug and alcohol problems over the years, not like actively, but just he was very public about his battles, which may be one of the reasons why this came as such a shock because he seemed to be beating them. And then last night after dinner, I logged into Facebook, and one of my friends had posted a picture of Robin Williams, and I sent just some sort of snipey, silly response to it, and then scrolled down, another inch and a half, and saw Robin Williams is dead. I'm like, oh shit! And I go back and deleting that post because then I realized why she had put that up there. And it was just so sudden, so unexpected, and
Mm-hmm.
he was 63. So it's not like there've been plenty of celebrity deaths this year, but they were all old, for the most part, old people who were, it's sad that they died, but hardly a tragedy. This was just out of nowhere. No one expected it.
It was interesting to watch social media last night because there was a point about maybe 25 minutes after the news hit on some websites and as television news started to pick it up where Facebook and Twitter was nothing but wall-to-wall posts about Robin Williams. There was one instance where I scrolled down my Twitter feed and there were, no kidding, there were 50 posts in a row. All of them had the words Robin and Williams in them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anybody who would, not care about this. He's just one of those universally liked people. Who has ever said, I don't really like Robin Williams, he's not that good?
It is
You've
odd,
never
though,
heard
because my
that.
knee-jerk reaction is always to not care about the celebrity news. They are celebrities. They are over there. They're not really real people. They're paid to act. They're paid to entertain. Why do I want to pick up a People magazine? Why do I want to turn to TMZ? I don't care about that stuff usually. Robin Williams is entirely different, just like Michael Jackson was entirely different.
Well, I think it goes down to how much those people penetrate your life, and Robin Williams goes right back. He's always been there my entire life, right back from watching Mork and Mindy and bits of him on Happy Days, and then moving on. And I don't know how different it was for you guys, um, my parents did a good job as I was little to protect me from Robin Williams stand-up. I was aware that it happened, and they were always like, "No, he's brilliant. He's very funny. Can I watch it, Mum?" "No." "Okay." And then that kind of, but he was always on TV. And then but there was this kind of gap because the films that he was in were always, especially early on, seemed to be very serious, very adult-themed films. And so I went through a period of sort of no Robin Williams until I was old enough to transition from like Mork and Mindy and the sillier TV stuff into sort of being able to appreciate Awakenings and Dead Poet Society and stuff like that.
Well, let me share a tale, if I may. If you follow my Facebook feed, you've already seen this, and I apologize for repeating. But back in Christmas of 1979, since you mentioned his stand-up, we knew him as Mork, okay, and this was long before the internet and long before VCRs or anything like that. So all we knew of Robin Williams was the crazy guy we saw on TV, and maybe the occasional appearance on The Tonight Show or something. But Christmas 1979, his album Reality What a Concept, which was his first stand-up album, was out. And I begged my mom for it for Christmas, and they got it for me for Christmas. And this was back during right after the Tipper Gore congressional hearings about labeling objectionable content on records and stuff. And it had a big warning label, warning, adult language. But my mom was like, "It's Mork, how bad can it be?" And so after we'd done all this was Christmas morning, we'd done all I'm 15 years old at the time, and so my brother is 13. And we'd done all the presents, and my mom says, "Okay, who wants to help me make cookies?" And I said, "I will if I can put my new record on the big stereo." And she's like, "Okay, sure." And so I opened it up and I put it on, and the first couple of jokes are he's doing some sort of Russian kind of Danny Kaye, I'm pretending to speak in another language sort of thing, and it was ha ha ha, and then and forgive me for this terrible anyway, he says, "And now for my first impression, a New York echo. Hello, shut the fuck up." I still remember the look on my mom's face. She turned about 8 shades of red. I'm surprised we didn't have the classic cliche movie of the coffee cup dropping into the sink at that moment. I'm laughing my ass off. My brother thinks it's hilarious. The record came off the stereo and was banished to my bedroom for the rest of time. And I had a memory that will never go away. And that was my first introduction to his album. And now, if you've ever heard Reality What a Concept, it's some of Williams at his young best. He certainly did much better stuff as he more matured as a performer. But if you want to just hear raw, unadulterated, probably coked out of his mind Robin Williams, Reality What a Concept is awesome.
I hate to interrupt you here, Rick. I'm going to do that all night, Rich and Rick. And my middle name's Richard, so this is even more confusing. My self-identity is being destroyed. Hate to, but as I'm listening to your story, I look over and see all kinds of news coming in. Lauren Bacall is dead at age 89. Just as of a few minutes ago.
Not a tragedy.
89 years old. One of the leading ladies of golden age of Hollywood. Yeah. Anyway, looking back at Robin Williams, hey, I want to talk to you a little bit more about what he meant to you, but first, this is the Atomic Trivia War 9000, or at least that's the feed I'm going to release this to, so I thought, hey, what we do here is trivia, and I put together some trivia for you guys. How do you feel about taking some questions?
Yeah,
Bring it.
All right, you guys can just answer. You don't need to try to compete for points or anything like that, but I did at work today, on the dime of my employer, put together 15 questions. Number 1, starring Robin Williams, Mork and Mindy ran from 1978 to 1982 on ABC, but it was actually a spin-off of this Gary Marshall sitcom that idealized life in 1950s Wisconsin.
Go ahead, Rich.
Happy Days.
I thought that you guys would have that one for sure. Never a doubt in my mind that you would both come up with it.
He also appeared on Laverne and Shirley at one point, too, didn't he?
Well, they were all connected because Laverne and Shirley was also a Happy Days spin-off.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if he was ever on Johnny Loves Chachi.
Nobody was ever on Johnny Loves Chachi.
I'm going to have to dig that show out and watch it somehow. I've heard about it too much now to never.
No, you don't want to. You don't want to. Trust me, I was there.
I'll find it. I'll put it somewhere.
Question number 2 is a can of worms because I have here the top 20 Robin Williams films as rated by IMDb. I just kind of want to figure out how many of them you can name.
Goodwill Hunting. Oh, yeah, he was in that.
Good Will Hunting's number 1 on the list, highest
number-
rated, 8.2.
Dead
Dead Poets Society.
That's at number 3.
Bicentennial Man.
Let's see if that's on the list here. I thought that one was kind of schlocky, so I don't think that's
See?
going to be.
I'm one of the 8 people in the world that love that movie.
No, it's not on the top 20.
I wouldn't say you're in any way wrong for enjoying that movie. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just not The Fisher King.
It's
something
quite
like that.
saccharine.
Yeah,
You know what it has over The Fisher King? You don't see Robin Williams' ass in it.
there is that.
What dreams may come.
Also, I would put into that same category, very saccharine, very emotionally manipulative, but without a whole lot of substance. At least that's what I thought when I watched it. Not in the top 20.
Freaked my shit out when I saw it.
Okay.
Have we said Dead Poets Society? Good Morning Vietnam.
Good Morning Vietnam is number 20.
Awakenings.
Wow, that low?
Awakenings is number 5.
What was it? Photo Booth or 24-hour Photo or what was that one?
That one, oh man, I can't remember what that one was.
It is, I think it's 24-hour Photo.
I always get that one confused with Insomnia. Not because the plots of the movies have anything to do with each other, but because they seem to have a similar tone where he takes that flip and is suddenly the bad guy.
Yeah, I think they might be the only 2 times when he was an out just the bad guy in the film.
Aladdin's got to
think
be
of
high
another
up there.
Yeah.
Aladdin's number 2. And I'll stop having you hunt and peck here. It's Good Will Hunting, Aladdin, Dead Poets Society. Number 4 is when he starred in Hamlet.
Oh, right, okay.
What?
With Kenneth Branagh.
Just the rate,
and
yeah.
Christie.
But he had such a minor role in that. But I guess just ratings that he was in. Okay, got it. Yeah. He was in the movie
Awakenings.
for about 10 minutes.
Who is Harry Nilsson, and why is everybody talking about him? That's a 2002 or 2010 movie. Doesn't ring any bells for me though.
Yeah, I never heard of that one.
I think that's actually a documentary. I've seen it kicking around on Netflix. But
The life and work of the enigmatic folk rock singer-songwriter. That would lend credence to your claim that it's a documentary. Yeah. August Rush, The Fisher King, Mr. Warmth. That's the Don Rickles movie. Boulevard, which is a movie that just came out this year here. Robin Williams, Bob Odenkirk, Kathy Baker. Dreams with Sharp Teeth at number 11. Deconstructing Harry, Richard Pryor, Omit the Logic. I'm from Hollywood, Up for Grabs, Fog City Mavericks. A lot of these, this is just
I've never
trash.
heard of most of these.
The Adventures of Baron Munchausen at number 19 and Good Morning
That was
Vietnam. So lots to load in there. Moving on though to question number 3. Here you go. I'm going to throw a quote at you. Throwing it at me would do no good. You tell me what movie it comes from. You don't know about real loss because it only occurs when you've loved something more than you love yourself.
Popeye.
Is that The Fisher King?
No, that one's Good Will Hunting.
Okay.
My personal favorite among his movies.
I've never seen it all the way through, so I'll add that to my list.
You are dead to me, Richard Smith.
I'm sorry.
I know I've seen it, but the only thing I remember is him naked in the park scooting along the grass.
I don't think that's from that movie.
No, that's Fisher King.
That's what I said. Isn't that what we're talking about?
No, Good Will Hunting.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one too, and I don't remember anything about it.
There's
Number
no
4.
grass scooping, though. It's fine.
Yeah.
Number 4, I think Rick is going to ace this one. Name 2 of the 3 hugely popular Robin Williams HBO stand-up comedy specials.
Reality with a Concept, and what was the one that killed us? His comeback one back in 2002. Oh, what the hell was it called? Live from Manhattan or something like that?
Live on Broadway.
Live on Broadway?
I'm just going to Google something here real quick. I'm not sure that Reality What a Concept was an HBO special.
Actually, I think it was called Night with Robin Williams, now that I think about it.
Yeah, the 3 here are Off the Wall, An Evening with Robin Williams, and Robin Williams Live at the Met.
Live at the Met, that's the one. I remember that because my wife and we were just married and just moved into our first apartment at my first gig out of grad school. and we saw that for the first time and about peed ourselves.
Number 5 is a little bit of a Price is Right game. So I'm going to leave you two to lock in your bid here in a minute. Williams struck a deal with Disney to voice the genie in Aladdin for SAG scale pay, providing that they didn't use his name or likeness in any advertising. How much was SAG scale pay in 1992 when Aladdin was released?
Guess it depends on how accurate Movies You Should See is.
I'm guessing $57,000.
I believe. Well, I listened to the Robin Williams Hall of Fame episode y'all you put out on the feed this morning.
Yeah.
And you said 75,000 on that, and that's the only guess I could make.
75,000 is the correct answer. See, Rich just said 57 because he's dyslexic, so he switched the numbers.
Oh well, and did I say it on the Movies You Should See episode as well?
Yeah.
Ah, there you go.
I'm quoting you. So.
Number 6. Name the movie based on this quote. Human tails? Humans don't have tails. They have big, big bottoms that they wear with bad shorts. They walk around going, "Hi, Helen." Fern Gully is the correct answer.
Fern Gully, let me just tell you how I saw Fern Gully for the first time.
Stoned?
I was in the Air Force, so I wasn't doing that at the time. But a bunch of my buddies were like, "Come on over, we're going to get hammered and watch this movie. It's awesome." And that's the best way to watch it. In your buddy's living room, drunk off your ass. It's hilarious.
I won't tell you how old I was when I saw that movie, because it would bring to light the sad age gap that we have here. Number 7. Williams co-stars in this 2001 film that it also included actors Haley Joel Osment, Jude Law, Francis O'Connor, Brendan Gleeson, and William Hurt.
AI,
artificial intelligence.
I actually
Number
paid
8.
to see that piece of crap.
I think I did too. That was during college. I'm pretty sure that I went to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8. In 1989's Dead Poets Society, Williams' character, an English teacher at a prestigious Vermont school, tells students that they may call him this name in reference to what famous Walt Whitman poem?
Is that the "Oh Captain, My Captain"?
That's right.
Yeah.
You've got it. Oh Captain, My Captain. Number 9. Williams' daughter appeared in House of D along both her father and Star Trek actor Anton Yelchin. According to Williams, he named her after what NES character?
Zelda.
Zelda. His daughter's name is Zelda. Big gamer, that Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Apparently, he played a
sitting
sniper.
still long enough.
Apparently, he played a sniper in Call of Duty. That was his deal. Number 10. While studying together at Juilliard, Williams was good friends with what iconic but now deceased superhero comic big screen actor?
Christopher Reeve.
You've got it. Number 11. This heavy Isaac Asimov sci-fi classic was Williams' favorite book, and he expressed interest in playing Harry Seldon, father of the field of psychohistory, in a big screen adaptation.
Foundation.
There you go. Number 12. In the 1970s and 1980s, Williams was addicted to this drug, giving it up after watching close friend John Belushi die of an overdose in 1982.
Cocaine?
Cocaine is the one. Belushi, didn't he die of... It wasn't just cocaine. He was mixing stuff, right?
Right. It's what is now known as a speedball. This will indicate that I know far too much about this. It was at the time known as a Belushi because he kind of invented it a bit, and it's heroin mixed with speed.
We're having a huge problem. We're having a huge problem in my neck of the woods right now with heroin. That seems to be the drug of the day. So kind of wondering what kind of an effect something like Robin Williams' death might have on that. Because, again, it's not related directly to his death. I mean, all the news reports indicate that he probably died of asphyxiation from hanging himself. But it's no secret, and he made no secret of his long history of drug use. You wonder if that might get out there and kind of prompt people to take a closer look at what they're doing.
Did it work with Belushi?
It did kind of work with Belushi, didn't it? There were lots of ripples from his death.
Yeah, I think so. And, yeah. It's all horrible, I think.
Number 13. Like Bill Cosby, Tom Cruise, Jimmy Stewart, Jack Nicholson, Dustin Hoffman, Howie Mandel, Woody Harrelson, and Ellen Page, Robin Williams was thought to have this condition, though he never confirmed or denied it.
Dyslexia?
Nope.
ADHD?
ADHD is the correct answer.
Oh,
All right.
thought?
Lots of reports all over the place of that. Not a drop of confirmation. I mean, just pure publication doesn't make it true. I never
Yeah.
saw one instance where it was documented or where he talked about it or anything like that. And given I didn't spend 3 hours trying to look it up or lock it down or anything, but still.
It's a tricky thing, ADHD, because as far as I'm aware, there's still debate as to whether it is even real.
There was a paper that came out not too long ago, and again, in news circles, you got to wonder how much of this stuff that gets printed is actually given credence. But yeah, basically saying, by the way, ADHD isn't real. I think it was last spring that came out.
Yeah.
Number 14, imagine this. Williams was a strong contender for this 2005 movie role that went instead to Heath Ledger.
The Joker?
Yeah.
The Joker. The Joker in The Dark Knight.
I'm glad he
Almost
didn't
Robin
do that.
Williams.
Yeah, I'm glad he didn't do that. That would have been a bit too dark.
I don't know, though, because he has played some very disturbing roles. I mean, we already talked about, what was it, 24-hour photo booth?
Yeah. I don't know. The 24-hour photo roll it's creepy, but it's not chilling. The Joker, especially the way Heath Ledger did it, was a chilling character.
Backing it up just a little bit there, he was also a huge contender to play the Riddler and was in talks to play the Riddler. Would have had the role locked down, but then Tim Burton turned his back on the third movie. That's where Robin Williams was going to play it.
Right.
After Batman Returns. Yeah. Number 15, final one, and then we can talk a little bit more about the man himself. Name the movie based on this quote. I've seen things you've only seen in your nightmares, things you can't even imagine, things you can't even see. There are things that hunt you in the night. Then something screams. Then you hear them eating, and you hope to God that you aren't dessert.
That's Jumanji.
That is Jumanji.
Yeah.
That's
that one.
That's representative of that whole crop of movies that I grew up on, which is weird. Rick, I was listening to your story about how you grew up late 70s, and your parents were telling you, no, you can't listen to those comedy specials. Well, by the mid-'80s, my parents had formed ideas about Robin Williams. He was a terrible person. We don't want you watching that. And of course, as you guys know, my parents are very strictly religious. But then all of a sudden, they started slipping him into more things. Ferngully, Jumanji, Aladdin. All those movies started coming out. His focus turned, and all of a sudden, he was suddenly socially acceptable.
I don't think my parents ever had a problem with him. They just didn't see him as suitable for me at the age I was. But he was never sort of badmouthed or banned as such. And I think there was always appreciation of him when he did come into sort of more kids roles. I wonder if that had something to do with him having his own kids. That you just want to, be an Aladdin because your kids love you being the genie. So why not?
There was also a spate of movies where he seemed to be playing the repentant father. There was, of course, the one that comes to mind is Mrs. Doubtfire. And I think it's impossible to say that movie didn't come from some sort of personal experience of his. The man was divorced and remarried 3 times.
Of course. Quite possibly so. I know actually very little about him as a person. Other than he always seemed to be just a nice, gentle person with lots of happiness around him. You never got... I've never heard any horrible stories about the man. Ever. And in fact, I don't count stories of drug use as bad stories. That's something that happens to people. That doesn't
No
mean
kicking puppies, no punching people with a telephone.
Exactly. All that sort
Right.
of thing. And even now, if people had bad stories about Robin Williams, we'd be hearing about them now, but we're not because there aren't any.
Well, I think it was very telling, and I started to and stopped myself several times last night from absolutely horrific things happening in the world, especially in Iraq and in Israel and Gaza and all that stuff. I mean, just truly terrible stuff. And yet, one man's death set the internet on fire. And a lot of me was very sad that Robin Williams, you know, gone and all that stuff. But a big part of me is like, look, people, there have been children being murdered for weeks now, probably for years. But I mean, this is, the stuff happening in Iraq right now is just beyond horrible. And a few people I know were commenting about it, and people were trying to get the awareness out there. But a comedian kills himself, and everybody goes apeshit. Not that I'm saying that that's unwarranted. I think but the reason I'm bringing that up is it just shows how pervasive Robin Williams' presence is in modern culture. Is that him killing himself can totally eclipse all of this horror in the world. And I don't want to say it unites people, but it's just like the outpouring is amazing.
Well, to some degree, I mean, it's out of sight, out of mind. You've probably never met anyone who's suffering right now in Africa, but you formed this entirely superficial but still very real bond with someone that you've seen on the screen. You've seen take on different roles. You've become emotionally invested in the stories that he's told. So there's something intangible there that, like I said, is pretty superficial, but it's still real. People knew Robin Williams. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I've never met the man, but I've seen him on TV, and that seems like a dumb thing to say, but when you know someone through the stories that they tell, you know that person to some degree, because no actor comes at a story from some place where they aren't bringing their own experience to it. At least that's what I think.
Oh yeah. Well, and last night when I first saw that Robin Williams was dead, the first thing I did was start searching every legitimate news site to make sure this wasn't some hoax or something. Because Robin Williams, you guys probably never knew a time when you didn't know Robin Williams, and I remember when he came onto my radar, but I was so young that for all practical purposes, he's been a fixture of TV and movies and stuff all my life, and he was not old enough to be considered eligible for the death pool, and so here's someone who you have no expectation of ever dying, at least or a reasonable expectation that you might not outlive them, suddenly gone. And just the public just went.
I'm the youngest of the three of us here, and I think that it was Rich earlier today who said actually that there was never a time that you haven't known Robin Williams, that he hasn't been around, that he hasn't been in the public presence, that he hasn't been reaching out and telling those stories. I think that that's very much true for us. Rick, you though saw him move from stand-up comedy to the big screen.
Yeah, and it was a little strange. Let me consult the Oracle of IMDb, because I'm not sure what the first movie I saw him in was.
I mean, I'm 34, and my generation and people who are a little bit younger, we have the same thing with, say, Tom Hanks. I mean, there's very few people out there who are my age who ever saw Bosom Buddies, except maybe a Nick at Night reruns. I think that there's probably very few people out there who are my age who actually remember seeing Mork and Mindy in anything other than reruns.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have been around to see it.
Okay, so Popeye was his first movie. I remember seeing Popeye, and what year was that? That was
1980.
1980. It was boring. It was not a good movie. Not because of Williams at all. I mean, he certainly did a fine job. It was just a dreadful film. So that was kind of like, oh, okay, here's a comedian doing a movie, and it's not a very good movie. But then Moscow on the Hudson came out in 1984, and of course, at the time, we really didn't know any better than his kind of cartoonish Russian imitation. But it was still, I still remember him losing his mind in the coffee aisle at a supermarket. It was a good movie. It was a fun movie, and that was, I think, when we first realized, wow, this dude can do more than just nanu nanu and and shout fuck on stage. And it was a very it was a very gradual progression. Sudden, it went from here's this guy on TV to suddenly he's in everything. And then Good Morning Vietnam came out, and just what can you say about that movie other than it was just amazing.
I'm looking at the list here on IMDb of everything that he's done, 102 credits, and yeah, I've seen Popeye. I mean, that was a Reitman movie. I don't remember liking it. I think that wasn't it just terrible as far as it bore no relationship to the cartoon, bore no relationship to the comic strip.
It just nothing happened. It was just a lot of big, overly populated scenes with, Williams and what's the girl's name? She was in The Shining. Oh hell, I'm gonna have to look it up.
I'll get it in a second here. Shelley Duvall.
Shelley Duvall, thank you. I kept wanting to say Shelley Winters, but that's the other end of the spectrum. You guys probably don't know who that is. Anyway, yeah, it just Popeye just never went anywhere, and then like I said, Moscow on the Hudson, I liked it. Well, I remember liking it. I haven't seen it since it came out. Then Good Morning Vietnam took the world by storm, and then I think that pretty much just sort of set the hook for Robin Williams, and he could do no wrong after that. And he never went into the asshole end of the pool as a celebrity. He certainly could have, but like you said, I've been in the entertainment business for 30 years, and I've heard a lot of so and so's a dick, so and so is a jerk to work with, so and so does it. I have never heard a bad story about Robin Williams.
Did you ever have a spotlight on him? I know that you've had a lot of people in your sights.
I have, and I haven't. Most of the people I get are at the end of their careers. Usually, it's the like Robert Goulet in 2003, who wanted to do sort of a working vacation in South Florida, sort of thing. So I know I saw him live in Gainesville in 1982, but I don't remember a whole lot about it. But I wasn't working that gig. I was just a student at the time.
You like to skip, because you went right from Popeye, we mentioned Mork and Mindy, and then from there you're on to Good Morning Vietnam. But one of my favorite movies, period, not even just a Robin Williams movie, but 1982, The World According to Garp. I'm a huge John Irving fan. I've got all kinds of books by John Irving. You've got Hotel New Hampshire, you've got the Cider Press Rules, you've got all kinds of terrific books by John Irving, and The World According to Garp is one of the best books that he ever wrote. Maybe A Prayer for Owen Meany might top it as far as literature goes. The big screen adaptation, Simon Birch, didn't do it for me at all, but The World According to Garp is such a good movie.
Everybody I knew read that book before the movie came out. I've yet to read it. I saw the movie. Again, it's like I have to say I remember John Lithgow more than I do Robin Williams from that film. And of course the line "bitten off in a car." But
see, this all just illustrates to me that there's a lot of Robin Williams stuff I've got left to watch.
Garp's a good movie. Garp's a really good movie.
How can there not be? I mean, with 102 titles to his name.
Yeah. You've really got to put the work in to get through all of them, haven't you?
Even if you strip out the TV movies, even if you strip out the comedy series like Pryor's Place that he was on, or SCTV, even if you take all that out, just his body of work when it comes to feature films, amazing. He was probably one of I would say, the premier people of Hollywood in the 1980s and 1990s. Can you think of a bigger name in, say, from 1985 to 1995, a bigger name in all of moviedom?
Not off the top of my head.
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford is probably
actually.
Yeah, but actually that got me thinking. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, especially with every celebrity who gets to that age. We're getting to a big drop-off point where you're going to see a lot of names that we recognize dying. Up until now, it's been a lot of names that our parents recognize who are dying, who fill out those Oscar rosters every year. I'm sorry. You're my parents' age, Rich. Not really. But I've been thinking a lot about this. Like, who are the big names that we would put Robin Williams on a pedestal with? I think when I contacted you guys earlier today by email, I mentioned maybe Johnny Carson, Jerry Seinfeld, Michael Jackson. He's up there with that caliber of person.
Richard Pryor, George Carlin. Yeah,
it even it even
I,
opens up the bigger question of the way that media is fracturing. You know, it's not just three networks anymore. It's hundreds of television channels, the web, tablets, all kinds of media at your fingertips, instantaneous delivery, streaming everything all the time. Can there even be a Michael Jackson or a Robin Williams? Can someone of that caliber emerge in today's media? And I think the answer is no. I don't think that there can ever be a Beach Boys or a Sinatra or a John Wayne or a Liz Taylor anymore.
I don't know.
Louis C.K. has the potential,
Yeah,
but we won't know for 20 years.
I think it's difficult because you don't know how long someone's going to last until they've lasted that long. But I don't think just because there's a lot more media now than there used to be, I don't think that means that somebody can't jump to the top of it all, especially when you've got somebody that unique and talented. Um,
It's something that weighs on my mind because it's the one big thing that's killing my industry right now. You know, my day job is newspapers, and it's the reason that we have so much trouble staying in the big circulation that we used to be. I mean, we lose critical mass because there's just too many things to pay attention to, which is why people still pick up newspapers. Newspapers are still a viable source of getting your information out. It's just there's too many other things into the mix. So it's kind of something that I'm trying to think about with celebrities too. I mean, with music, can you think of someone right now who you would say that person who's in the top 40 charts will last the test of time? They will be around. They will be singing. They will be packing concert halls. They will be packing stadiums.
Not unless you're talking about somebody who already has been around for a couple of decades, perhaps. You know, no one knew, certainly. But I honestly think, particularly in music, it's more a reflection on the state of the industry as it is, rather than uh, how fractured media happens to be. I think in music in particular, we're content with a great deal more rubbish. You know, we often have every time Alison puts on a Prince album, we'll have this conversation. Who's working now at that level? No one, absolutely no one. But I think with acting, with films, I think we are seeing people that are going to be around in 20, 30, 40 years time as old people.
You
Um,
got your Bill Cosbys, your Redfords, your Eastwoods, your Shatners, your Carol Burnett's, your Schwarzeneggers, your Crichtons, your Pythons, all these people that I would put Bill Murray, I would put in the same category as as Robin Williams.
yeah.
Who would
But
you pinpoint as being in that next crop then that you see potential in of reaching that same status?
oh gosh, that's a good question. That's a good question. Hmm.
And I would exclude maybe the bracket from Brad Pitt and up. That's somebody, you know, people who've been around since the 90s and have gained a lot of following. I would say that they're the current Hollywood royalty, who since maybe 2000 has been coming up through the ranks.
Phew.
Wow.
It's kind of difficult to
I,
pin anyone down without much of a list in front of me.
yeah,
You know me, my
I gotta
go-to
stick
is
with.
Ryan Reynolds, but even that, I mean, he used to be the next big thing, and now he's not.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. The next big thing almost never is.
Mm.
I think Robert Downey Jr. Well, but again, he's been around forever. So
He's part of the Brat Pack. I mean, he was there in the
yeah,
80s.
um, like I said earlier, Louis C.K. I think has the potential because he's riding in that same groove that Williams and Carlin and Pryor did, where he's just out there saying he's not mincing words. He's hilarious, but he's also not kowtowing to anybody. I mean, I'll watch his stand-up and just cringe because he'll be saying things I wouldn't dare say even in private, and it's hilarious, and it's true. And I think that's where if you watch, I think Williams really shone as a stand-up. I will give you his acting career was awesome, but I'm sort of a heretic in that for the most part, when I see that Robin Williams is in a movie, it's a bit of a turnoff. Not because he's bad, but because he's always Robin Williams, no matter who he's playing, even when he's doing a fantastic job. Although, granted, I haven't watched stuff like 24 Hour Photo or the things that that's not my kind of flick, so I wouldn't watch it.
Sorry, I checked it out. It's 1 hour photo.
One
I only
hour
quote
photo.
you because it would be
Sorry.
driving some people mad. I don't care either way.
Um, it's like watching him on interviews is exhausting for me because it's just like, dude, sit down and just talk. And I know that's the Robin Williams thing. He was so hyperkinetic that he couldn't just sit and talk. And if there was ever someone that you could point to and say that's what ADHD looks like, I'm if I had grown up in the 90s instead of the 60s, they would have called me ADHD. I was hyperactive, whatever, and I was on Ritalin until I was 11, and I still have trouble focusing on shit. So I don't want to get into the debate on whether it's real or not, but I do relate to the ADHD. I haven't looked too deeply into it, but anyway, Robin Williams was always Robin Williams. And did you see the tweets that Norm Macdonald put out yesterday?
Didn't see him, no.
Norm Macdonald, whether you like his comedy or not, I love him. I think he's fantastic. I actually was kind of sad for him when Bob Dole didn't win the presidency. But Norm Macdonald is
great. Bob Dole's peanut butter.
I don't even remember which sketch it was, but there was one where it was a bunch of women, and it was like 30-year-old women acting like they were 12-year-olds on a sleepover. And at one point, you just heard Norm Macdonald off stage going, "Hey, quiet down in there! Bob Dole's trying to sleep." It was, just. It was great. I love Norm Macdonald. He's so out of left field. And
Men at Work was a great movie too.
I never saw that.
It's the one where he and who was it? Was it maybe Chris Farley? I don't remember. But they started a company that their job was to prank other people for folks who had been wronged.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah.
See, Chris Farley, I never got him. I did not mourn the day he passed. I'll confess to that. But then I didn't like John Candy either. So, and since Farley patterned himself after Candy, yeah.
So Rich.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, Norm Macdonald.
What happened? I don't know.
Put this series of tweets out about he was going on, I think it was The Tonight Show, and Robin Williams was going to be on that show, and McDonald said that he was in his dressing room and he was freaking out and he was trying to calm down, and as he never said Robin Williams, he said the funniest man in the world. McDonald was on the phone to his wife, or to a friend of his rather, and he just kept saying, the funniest man in the world just came into my dressing room and for half an hour pretended to be a Jewish tailor, getting McDonald ready to go out on stage. And
this is what Lisa was saying too, because I asked her before we started the podcast, what she thought about Robin Williams, and she said every time that he came out on a talk show, every time that he was on screen where he wasn't acting, where he was still on, and she said every time that he did that, it showed just how much he would be one of her students. She's a special education teacher, and she said, I see that. That's a symptom that I see every single day. There is something about his mind that makes him special, that makes him funny, but it's that same thing. You can tell it's a learning disability or something along those lines. And she said that she drew the connection immediately between him and Michael Jackson. She said it's the same thing that fueled both of those people that she thinks leads to their ultimate demise.
I totally agree with her. I think she's absolutely right. I think all of these people that are these shiny, unique, special people are in some way broken in a way that the rest of us are not.
Yeah. Here's the tweets. I won't read all of them, but it was the Letterman show. And McDonald's in his dressing room and he's freaking out. He's on the phone to a friend back home when the funniest man in the world ambled by. There was no one else on the floor. In shock, I told my friend who just walked by, only the funniest man in the world. I guess he heard me say his name because in an instant he was at my side. He was a Jewish tailor taking my measurements. He went down on his knees, asked which way I dressed, and this goes on for half an hour of Robin Williams getting Norm Macdonald dressed for his appearance on the David Letterman show, and just. Then his friend didn't believe him, so McDonald gives the phone to his friend, and Williams talks for 10 minutes to his friend as a Chinese restaurant man taking his order for mushu pork. And After it was all done, McDonald was perfectly dressed in his suit. Robin Williams even tied his tie and then left. There was no one to witness it. Nobody saw it. He wasn't on stage for anyone but Norm Macdonald, and he just said, "Have a good show," and walked out. And it's like that's who he was. What we saw was who he was, except for the part of him nobody saw, and that's the part of him that killed him yesterday.
The thing that always got me was how he never had to slow down or take a breath. When he was getting into those routines where he would switch from character to character to character, he would do the voice, and then he would switch to the whole gay thing where he would sashay around the stage and his limbs would go wrist, and then he would go into the whole old lady voice. He would do them effortlessly, and he would do them seamlessly. And you always wonder how someone like that can do it without having to stop to take a breath or stop to think about what comes next or stop to formulate a joke in their mind. He was clearly thinking at a speed that was so much faster than what I am capable of thinking of that you wonder how he ever got to be like that.
He used to improv Shakespeare. From stories I've heard back in the days back at Juilliard.
I'm sorry, that sounds like a logical contradiction. How do you improv Shakespeare?
Exactly. He would improv in iambic pentameter. I can barely read this stuff properly, and he would make shit up on the spot.
So he would be actually generating Shakespeareish lines that people would easily mistake. If they didn't know Shakespeare, they would say that is Shakespeare. But I'm guessing that he would slip dirty and naughty things into them.
Listen to Reality, What a Concept. It's on there.
I think that will probably be my afternoon homework here, my evening homework after we're done with this podcast. What else should we say about the man? I mean, I think that we could go on at length. We've already been going for about 45 minutes, and it seems like we barely even scratched the surface of what he was capable of.
I think that we would be very remiss if we didn't mention how insidious depression can be. Because, at the risk of going off into an after-school special rant here, a lot of people would have figured Robin Williams was one of the happiest people on earth. And he certainly had no reason, again with the air quotes, to be depressed. And depression, as opposed to, dude, I'm so bummed right now. I mean, real clinical depression is a very, very insidious thing. How could someone like Robin Williams, who is so obviously universally loved, loathe himself so much that he would hang himself? And people have to know that this is a Go ahead, Rich. You probably have a better take on this.
I'm speaking from experience. It's something that I've suffered from for a long, long time. Since sort of, I think I was first diagnosed with depression in my late teens, sort of first at college age, and it will manifest in, I suppose, in slightly different ways in different people. But the best explanation I can give you for it is it's not necessarily a case of self-loathing. There's nothing necessarily even that well thought out about how you feel. It's just you feel sad. Take all the worst feelings you've ever felt and then imagine feeling those, but there's no direct obvious cause. We've all been through big events in our lives that were upsetting, that were traumatic, all that sort of thing. But at least with those, you know why that's happened. If you've lost a family member, you're sad because you've lost a family member. If you've lost a job, you're sad because you've lost a job. All these other things. With depression, you just have that feeling, and there is no reason for it. And because there's no reason for it, there's nothing you can do about it. There's no consoling. There's no cheer up, this might happen or that won't happen, or you worried over nothing, because there's nothing causing that thing in the first place. And it's just such a difficult thing to deal with, and it's difficult for other people to accept that you feel like that for no reason. And so I think it can cause people to just not want to talk about it, because there's all you can do by sharing it is share it. There's no so then let's feel better or anything like that, because nothing is causing it. Well, something obviously is, but no direct event in your life. And so you kind of can clam up and not see the point. But I would, yeah, I think if somebody, as I've always felt, if somebody's gotten to the point of suicide, obviously I'm not in a position to speak for him personally. but I wouldn't say it's that he was ever hateful or disliking of himself. I would expect, based on how I felt in the past, that it's just a feeling of just great sadness with no explanation whatsoever. And I can totally understand how a person can just want that to end, just stop that horrible feeling of downness.
Building on what you're saying, Rich, here's the paradox that is Robin Williams. If you want a challenge, take a look at, just Google his name and then do an image search on Google. And then every image that pops up for Robin Williams, cover up his face except for the eyes and look at his eyes. Even in most of the pictures where he's smiling, he still has those eyes that are just sad. And I doubt very much that that's just his facial features. I mean, it looks like he was a man of great emotional depth, and it looks like he was the sort of person who was trying to carry a smile, but there was always something deeply disturbed, profoundly disturbed down within him. I mean, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 30 photos of him on the screen right now. And in half of them, I'd say there is a person who is on the edge.
Yeah, we might not be looking at exactly the same set of photos, but the same thing is absolutely clear. He had very sad eyes.
There was the photo that I picked when I posted that we would be doing this podcast. I posted it to our Facebook page, and I said, "Man, that's not the Robin Williams that everybody thinks of when they imagine a picture of Robin Williams. That's a picture of a Robin Williams who is just ready to cry."
Mm.
Well, there's
Yeah,
been a lot of talk online in the last 24 hours. I'm looking at pictures too, and yeah, I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, that's a lot of these are very yeah. um, but a lot of people are kind of devolving to the trope of the sad clown, and I suppose there's some veracity to that. That you know, if you are a sad person, you know, or a lot of people that act out and act funny have a great sadness inside, and I think that feels very reductionist to me. That feels very let's put him in this box here so that we can wrap our heads around what happened. But
Even the word clown is just a stupid word to even bring into the conversation.
yeah, I think it's very easy to put Robin Williams into a oh, he was just this goofy guy who was just too crazy to live for long. Yeah, and it's there's so much more to it than that. He's been in and out of rehab most of his life. He's had drug problems. He's had alcohol problems. He's been very open about it. So it's not like I'm revealing any secrets here or anything. Um, I think that it's very very sad that he lost the battle. And I know that there was one commentator on Fox News who has since apologized, who used the word coward in talking about Robin Williams yesterday. And it's very easy to fall into the anyone that kills themselves is a coward and doesn't have the guts to blah 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 whatever. Nobody knows what was going through his head. Nobody knows how many times he didn't pull that belt off and wrap it around his throat. Nobody knows except him what he was dealing with. And while we can certainly lament the loss of a great entertainer, and we can feel sad that we won't see any more of his work, if anything good is to come of this, if the world is to benefit at all from this lesson, it's got to be that nobody can I don't want to say diminish. The battles everybody's fighting battles, and you can't just say that they aren't important because somebody is funny or they're laughing or they're smiling or whatever. I'm trying to get something out here, and I'm not getting it right. Just because somebody is successful doesn't mean they're happy, and just because somebody is funny doesn't mean they aren't crying. And yeah. Robin Williams really has shown us it. I don't want to say this is a good thing by any stretch of the imagination, but something good can come from this if people learn that depression isn't just oh, cheer the fuck up, asshole. You know.
Exactly.
Kind of impressed there with your quoting ability, Rick, because you reached for that one by Plato that is slowly, as I get older, becoming one of my favorite quotes, which is "Be kind. Everyone that you meet is fighting a hard battle."
Yeah. I hate I hate to fall back on the cliche of if I knew this when I was younger, but one of the things about one of the things that happens as you get older is you either learn or you don't. And it's real easy when you're young to judge people, and as you get older, you start learning that you've made mistakes, and you don't want to be judged for it, and nobody else wants to either. And it's really nothing is black and white. Nothing is simple.
Well, I think we're going to start aiming for a wrap up here. I think that we've said an awful lot, and I think that uh, it's kind of helping me to see some things in a new light. But I want to kind of change a little bit and close on a little bit of an upper, because I already said, and I'm going to ask you in a moment what your favorite movie is, but I've already said my favorite movie is Good Will Hunting. It's one in which he showed profound sadness. It's one in which I think you would expect it to come at the end of his career. It came in the middle of his career, but you would expect it to be a performance that, as someone matures, they would be able to ramp up to that performance. I really loved him in that movie. I really loved what he had to say. When I was in my late teens and in college, it gave me an awful lot to think about how I should think and try to be a little bit less elitist, that sort of thing. So it was a movie that made a big difference in my life. Richard Smith, do you have a favorite Robin Williams movie? Maybe something that imparted a lesson to you?
I do have a favorite Robin Williams movie. I think, do you know what? When you read the news last night, I had a sort of gut reaction of, well, I've got to watch this movie now, like now. And if we weren't sort of an hour and a quarter into Coming to America, I would have just put it on immediately. And that's The Birdcage.
I'm surprised you didn't say RV.
No, RV I've
Not
never
RV?
No, not RV, but The Birdcage. That's my favorite. It's very closely followed by Aladdin, which I hesitate to call that a Robin Williams film as much because it's, well, I don't know actually. I think if anything ever showed what you could do with just your voice in a film, then Aladdin is the one. But The Birdcage is absolutely one of my favorite films of all time.
I actually think that that's one of the reasons why Robin Williams' death hit me as hard as it did, is because I have a 3-year-old daughter now, almost 3-year-old daughter, and we've been watching Disney movies together. And we have watched Aladdin on repeat for the past 3 weeks. We probably watched it at least, I don't know, 30 times, 35 times. She absolutely loves it. I've been hearing Robin Williams non-stop in my household. It brings back everything that I loved about him in the 1990s. And my little girl running around repeating lines that he says and saying, "Daddy, Daddy, Genie did this," or "Daddy, Daddy, how did he do that? Can Genie do magic?" That really brought it back for me right in time to be hit hard by his death.
Yeah, the thing with Aladdin for me is, I mean, it came out in 1992. Now, I would have been sort of 12, 13. So this is right one of the last big popular child-oriented things that I would have allowed myself to enjoy before I hit 13 and hated the whole world. Um, with just perhaps a little bit of Jumanji poking through a bit later. But yeah, that Aladdin I always loved. It's such a wonderful, wonderful film. If you haven't seen it, you have to go and watch it. I think I might have to be making Alison sit through it later.
And Rick Tetrault, a favorite Robin Williams movie?
Well, let me just about Aladdin. It was probably the last Disney film I really enjoyed. I'm not big on Disney. I'm more of a Warner Brothers kind of guy, and I've always thought Disney was a little too pat. But I loved Aladdin. And
Rick, have you seen Frozen?
Yeah.
I'm guessing because we're both parents of young girls that are about the same age. You've both seen Frozen more times than most things.
Actually, I've seen the beginning and the end of Frozen about 6,000 times. I haven't really seen the middle of it.
Because I would have been right with you until Frozen came out. There was that huge lull where I'm just like, I'm over Disney. I don't need any more Disney. And then I sat and watched Frozen with my little kid maybe 24 times, and I said, you know what? This is a pretty damn good movie.
I'll try to keep this short. My problem with Frozen is it is so obviously to me written to be the next big Broadway Disney play.
You know, when you watch a film 24 times before you like it, that's actually known as Stockholm Syndrome. That's what that is.
um, anyway, my favorite Robin Williams film, I've mentioned this already, is Bicentennial Man. I am a huge Isaac Asimov fan, and Bicentennial Man, I think, is a greatly maligned film. It's a story about a robot that starts its life as just a domestic droid, and over the course of 100 or 200 years, gradually gets upgraded to the point where it might as well be human. And Robin Williams plays the robot. He doesn't do Robin Williams. He plays the role. And one of the things, one of the reasons I don't like Adam Sandler, one of the reasons I don't like Jim Carrey, uh, and a lot of stand-up comedians that become film stars is because they do the same shtick every time they're in a movie. And when they don't, I appreciate it. I love the Truman Show because Jim Carrey doesn't do Jim Carrey. He plays the part. I can't think of one Adam Sandler did. I think he's terrible no matter what he's doing.
I don't know that he ever has done that. What you're talking about?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Punch Drunk Love, maybe, or Spanglish.
I didn't see either one of those.
I think he turned off the Adam Sandler thing. He didn't do the voice where you come to the back of the boat.
See, that shit works on SNL, but in a movie, no. I mean, even Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi fell into that trap for some of their films. But I love Bicentennial Man, one, because it really sticks to the source material. If you read the novella, it's not really a novel. It's a more than a short story, but not quite a novel. The movie really follows it pretty well. They take some liberties, but you have to. Asimov was not good at writing characters. He was good at writing stories. His characters were always pretty one-dimensional. But Williams plays the part so well, and it's actually really, really poignant because, okay, I'm going to spoil a movie that nobody wants to see and is 20 years old or whatever. At the end, the robot decides to end his life so that he can die with his wife. And the fact that Robin Williams chose to end his life, I was thinking about this a lot today. It's frighteningly prescient, but it's a film I think that didn't do well because people were expecting a Robin Williams movie. It was marketed as a Robin Williams movie, and it wasn't. It was a very touching, very warm, very enchanting and engaging adaptation of Isaac Asimov's wonderful story. And so people didn't know how to deal with it. It wasn't him going and being funny. It was just him playing a part, and I think he played it beautifully. And I really wish more people would watch it. I think it's a fantastic film, and it's been much, much underappreciated.
Last thing I want to do here is, before the show even started tonight, I posted up on the Atomic Trivia War 9000 website that if any of our fans had things that they wanted to say about Robin Williams, thoughts that they wanted to share about him, what he meant to them, to write them there, and I would try to read them out. So I'm going to read as many of these as I can here. It's a pretty long list. I mean, it's not an infinitely long list, but it's a pretty long list, so just bear with me here. R.J. Booble says, so sad to hear about Robin's passing. He was a tremendous actor who had the talent to carry a film by a comedy or a serious tone. Buzz Warren. Buzz is a great guy, by the way. I like to listen to his stuff on Twitter. He says, going to watch Jumanji tonight, one of my favorite Robin Williams movies. Personally, one of my favorite too. I mean, it wasn't the deepest performance or anything, but it was exactly right for that point in time. Brandon Brooks says Robin Williams did a movie called World's Greatest Dad, where his son killed himself accidentally, and a large part of that movie is about Robin dealing with this emotionally. It's sad to believe Robin Williams dead in a similar manner and left us to deal with it emotionally. I'll never forget him. Josh Bissell says, simply, we all have that one comedian that highlights our childhood, who adds color and texture to our memories. That is who this man will always be to me. James Currents is very sad, which I can only nod and agree with. Paul Hosick says, watching his finest performance tonight, The Birdcage, so he's someone who's an acolyte of Richard Smith, I believe. Forgot how much I love this. Such a sad day for movie fans. Greg Blanchard, who we know well, friend of the Simply Syndicated Network, says, I admire his work in the serious, quirky areas too. The Fisher King is tops on my rewatch list on hearing this sad news. I wish I had a good copy of The World According to Garp as well. That's right, Greg, you do. I do own a copy of What Dreams May Come. I haven't seen it yet. Too soon is the vibe I'm getting on that one, though. Amanda Christine says, I grew up on his laughter and smile. I would watch his movies like The Birdcage whenever I felt down. I hosted a party for his Live on Broadway show. So few celebrities will garner a sense of loss like hit this amongst fans. We were out at a diner last night when they broke in on the TV with the news. The whole diner stopped and gathered round. We all shared the shock and then the memories of him. Jeff Ferry says, well, actually, Jeff Ferry shared a couple things. I'm going to scoot down to the second one that he posted because we have not mentioned hardly at all Mrs. Doubtfire, and he talks about it here. Although he had many great comedic and dramatic works, I'll point to one movie, Mrs. Doubtfire. That movie should not work. She's absolutely right. It is a terrible concept that almost never works. We've seen this done, and it never works, except for this time. Not only is the movie genuinely funny, it is a genuine movie. When the movie wraps up, it doesn't fall apart like most comedy does. The parents don't get back together, and Williams gives a nice little speech about different kinds of family, a true legend and a terrible loss. And David Wilson's the last one here that I'll read. He says, particularly upsetting as he brought so much joy in his performances. It's just tragic. So on that note, I'm going to step away from the mic here and clear my throat because I'm getting a little bit teary. Richard Smith, why don't you go ahead and promote everything on the Simply Syndicated Network that deserves promotion?
There's lots of stuff that deserves promotion, including as already been mentioned, we put out the Movies You Should See Hall of Fame episode for Robin Williams. That's out. I've actually just posted another episode because that Hall of Fame episode was just an extra, really. I think once we had it, I just put it out there. So there is a brand new movie, a new classic Movies You Should See is out, which is The Princess Bride, which was a great one from years ago. And there's a new Make It So out as well, which is episode 11. Goodness knows which one that was. Could be anything. Who knows? It's like podcasts in a can that the label's fallen off, and I know I'm giving you food, but what is it? Is it stewed steak? Is it jelly? Is it dog food? Who knows? That's there. And Tech Support Rich, the show, is out. And also Greatest Show in the Galaxy, and don't forget Atomic Trivia War 9000 and Starbase 66. And of course, White Star 5.
A brief word here about your Movies You Should See Hall of Fame episode on Robin Williams. You put that out overnight, and obviously it struck a chord. I mean, right away, 3,100 people downloaded it. So I know that there's a lot of people out there who are eager to remember Robin Williams in the best possible light, and that's a great episode from several years ago that does just that.
Yeah, I was up here when it happened, and it was just, I will just do this now. So there it is. It's there. It's free. Go download it, and I hope you enjoy it, everyone.
Okay, well, that's all for this evening. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook. I'm sure that there's lots more about Robin Williams that people want to share as they remember the awesome movies that he did, and maybe some of the not-so-great movies that he did, but the awesome movies that he did most of all. We'll see everybody next time on Atomic Trivia War 9000. Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Rich, for joining me.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.